steps. Seriously, look at this guy and how much he improved. I have seen many players go from beginner level to dominating the chessboard. This is what happens when you start doing the right things. These guys are ChessPage University members, but don't worry, I'm going to try to help you for free with this video. There is a predictable and safe way to get better at chess, if you simply follow the steps I'm going to show you in this video. It's the only video you need to watch, because it contains my best videos. I have cherry-picked the best moments and best advice from my entire channel and put them into one well-organized video. I guarantee if you follow the steps in this video it will help you more than any other chess video on YouTube. We're going to talk about the opening, the middle game, the end game and how to win at chess in general. But we need to get started with the opening. Let's settle this once and for all. This is the ChessPage 1 opening tier list for black, ranked from legendary game breakers to complete garbage that you should never play, unlike our first opening which is close to perfect. And here is how to play it. After e4 you play e5. Knight f3 is the most common move. You have to defend the pawn and play a long boring standard game without any fun. Is something I would never say because instead we counter-attack to maximize the aggressive play style. They capture the pawn and after that you offer your knight. They always take it, thinking your position will be ruined. But little do they know, this is exactly what you wanted. You tricked them into opening your center, which allows you to play very aggressive. The f2 square is actually so weak that even high-rated players often struggle to defend it properly. So let's rank the Stafford Gambit. The ranking is based on how strong, fun and easy to play the openings are. The Stafford is fun and strong, but definitely not easy. That might be perfect for some people, so I'll give it S tier, but if you're a beginner to intermediate player, there are even better openings for you. So don't just look at the final rating, any of these openings might be perfect for you and if you click off to watch nonsense, you might never find it. Next up, O'Neill Gambit. After e4, you go b5. They capture your pawn and you get nothing in return. Right now the lowest category is no, but this is more a who invented this and why kind of opening. Next up we have the England Gambit. It happens after white plays d4, you attack with e5, it's okay, you can play it, but it's not specifically easy, fun or strong. Good thing we have some more openings, and one of the next three is legendary. The Bird's opening. You think this is the one? It comes after white plays f4, should you study how to counter this properly? No, eat shit Bird's opening, you're worthless and not deserving of love. Scandinavian. After e4, you play d5. White usually takes, you take back and immediately some horse attacks your wife. You made two moves and your most valuable piece is in danger. Great. Jokes aside, this actually is a legit opening, but, considering most of you are beginner to intermediate level, it's not the easiest nor the most fun nor the strongest opening. The Scandinavian is solid, you can play it, but there are better ones. This next opening is unbreakable. If you learn it properly, nobody can stop you. It's legitimately legendary. After e4, you play c6. Your opponent plays d4 and you immediately challenge the center. This opening comes with massive strategic power and you will often find yourself conquering the center with a few easy moves. It's a truly amazing opening and you'll win many games because most of your low elo opponents can handle your massive dominant Caro-Kann. So what rank should an opening like this get? It's easy to learn, it's big fun, and it's very strong. We only have 2 legendary openings today, and this is clearly one of them. You should 100% learn it. And what's that? Another legendary opening? Right away? The Barnes defense. After e4, you play f6, blocking your knight, not developing any piece and opening the diagonal to your king. No, this one is bad. Bad opening, go to hell. Gundogan defense. e4, e5, knight f3, everything is normal and natural. You play queen e7. Yeah, that's a no. We're defense. e4 and you go a5. No. Goldsmith defense. Same thing but h5. No. Double king's pawn game. This is a real opening for once. e4 and you play e5. Most good openings come from the highly tactical king's pawn game. This is both fun and strong, but too broad. You can't possibly study the whole king's pawn game. So as a whole opening, the double king's pawn game is just too much to learn. The Sicilian. After e4 you play c5 and instantly gain 100 elo. The Sicilian is the most played defense on Grandmaster level. Clearly, it must be strong. It's also aggressive, which means fun. Sadly, it's also complicated. But don't worry, there's an easy variation for low elo rockstars like you. The Dragon Sicilian. They make a normal natural move. You go g6 and after some other white move, you bring your bishop here. Then get your knights out and castle. Easy, fun, strong. S tier. Great opening, but the next legendary opening is just untouchable. And what is this, by the way? Anyway, now up is the Grunfeld defense. It can be played against d4. You get the knight out, and if they ever go here, you can actually use the Grunfeld, which looks like this. But it's not only rare, it's also not particularly strong or fun or easy. So let's move on to the next one. Get out of here, Grunfeld, you pointless nonsense opening. The French defense. The baguette opening looks like this. e4, and after channeling your French energy, you resign immediately. Jokes aside, you play e6 to prepare an attack on d5. They usually try to conquer the entire center. You laugh and attack. The French defense is really strong and not that difficult, but against e4 you have better options such as the Caro-Kann or the Sicilian. The baguette opening is solid. And our next opening is legendary. Out of all these openings, the next one is very unique. It's not only strong and aggressive, you can also play this against literally anything. No matter if your opponent plays e4 or d4 or any other move, you play d6, then get your knight out, push the pawn and position your bishop. Now castle, and later in the game you're going to attack either king or queen side. Literally no matter what your opponent is doing, the King's Indian setup is a great backup plan against literally everything. It's strong, aggressive and always useful. Everybody should learn this opening. Legendary. That's why my next video will be a guide on the King's Indian setup. Subscribe if you want to see it. Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Gambit. You probably know this one is an opening trap for white. You prepare your missile launch, and once the time has come, boom. Insert evil laughter. Let's make... The ICBM Gambit for black is actually a trap inside of the Budapest Gambit, which is a solid opening, but nothing very cool. So now we have 3 more openings, and one of them is our mystery opening. St. George Defense. Your opponent opens with e4 and you play a6. Excuse me, what is this? St. George Defense? More like St. Goofy Defense. Get lost. That's a clear no. But, we have one more S-tier opening. This opening is perfect against d4. You counter with f5, and after some other move, you bring out your knight. This is the Dutch defense, and you can actually play it against everything that's not e4. An absolute S-tier opening. Next up is this opening. It's probably the most brutally aggressive gambit for black. It's also extremely rare. There's no way your opponent knows how to play against it. By the way, after that we will answer the question which openings you can learn to be prepared for every single opening move. But first, here's how the gambit works. e4, e5 and knight f3, very common boring moves. But now you go f5, the Latvian gambit. Most people take on f5, and after that you push your pawn, asserting dominance. Fast forward, your position might look something like this. This is a certified bye-bye moment for white. The ultra-tactical and ultra-aggressive Latvian is great if you're a high-rated player on a disrespect mission. If you're a beginner to intermediate player, this is a no. You have reached the best part of the video. Congratulations. Refocus real quick because this part will help you a lot. Ready? Let's build the most aggressive opening combo, the easiest opening combo and the most competitive opening combo. Against e4, you have plenty of aggressive options. The Sicilian defense is the standard aggressive opening. If you're looking for something more dubious, you should try the Stafford Gambit. Since it's rare, most people are confused into bad chess when facing it. For any move other than e4, consider the Dutch defense. It's very unbalancing, forcing an aggressive middle game. However, all these openings are really not that easy to play. If you're straight up looking for the easiest option, literally just learn the King's Indian setup and you can play it against any opening every single time as both black and white. The combo that I think will help you win more games consists of 2 openings. Against anything other than e4, you can still play the King's Indian setup. It's a quite easy, aggressive and strong opening. But against e4, there's something better. The Caro-Kann. It's very dominant with a straightforward game plan for the middle game. e4 is the most common move and you can learn the basics of this opening in about 10 minutes. Highly recommended for beginner to intermediate players. And now let's watch the quick Caro-Kann guide, which is the best guide ever, according to the top comment. For a sharp handsome young man like you aren't, it's an easy thing to control the opening as white. But half the games you'll find yourself being black. Now white is in control and you just make up a game plan move by move. Don't worry, the Caro-Kann is a legendary defense that you can use to dominate as black. In the Caro-Kann defense you break up their center like this and no matter what they do, you have a straightforward game plan to take control over the board. And believe it or not, many times you'll capture both pawns and end up with a superior pawn structure that allows you to bully your opponent all game long. It's a legendary opening because it's not only strong in lower elo, it's very strong in high elo chess too. Promise me to carefully pay attention right now. Don't look at the suggested videos, go full screen. If you stick with me for the next couple minutes and properly understand this opening, you'll have a game plan for most of your black games for the rest of your life. In the Caro-Kann, each of your pieces has its very own specific mission. Let's start with these pawns. Now obviously their mission is to attack the center. By the way, another common move is knight f3 instead of this pawn move, but you push the pawns like this anyway. Doesn't matter, when you do that, white can either take, push or defend their pawn. For the sake of explaining the game plan, let's say they push. If you were a grandmaster you should probably get your bishop out right now. But for anyone under 2000 elo, the stronger and easier option is to just stick with the game plan, meaning you attack the center by pushing this pawn. Remember, these pawns want to break up the center. Now it doesn't really matter if they defend their pawn or take your pawn, in both cases your knight's mission is to apply more pressure to the center. So it goes here. Most times they will defend the e-pawn with the knight. And that's what your bishop has been waiting for. Pin the knight like this. Whenever they bring out the knight, you pin it with the bishop. Even if it happens later in the game, you just wait to pin this knight. So your knight's mission is to apply more pressure to the center by going here. Your bishop's mission is to pin this knight, so that the knight can't defend this pawn anymore. Let's take a look at this bishop. By the way, one quick thing, if the knight gets pinned by the bishop, that's a little annoying, but you can literally just wait, because if they actually trade, your pawn structure becomes even more powerful. Anyway, this bishop right here is waiting for you to push the e-pawn. When you push, it opens the line for the attack on the c-pawn. Sometimes they just let you take it. If they defend it, you're ready to apply even more pressure and cause severe headaches with this knight. Go to e7 and then go to f5, attacking this bishop. So this knight's mission is basically to attack the black square bishop that will likely try to defend one of the pawns in the center. So if the bishop went here to defend this pawn in another game, you can go here to attack the bishop and the pawn at the same time. Just attack the defending bishop. It's actually pretty simple. I promise from now on it will be easier. That was the most complex part. By the way, your bishop is just chilling. Once they attack it, you can trade like this and the e-pawn lost his defense. Those are the game plans for each of your pieces. In many games you'll just win both pawns because white is not familiar with the Caro-Kann. But, this was the advanced variation. What if they take? Don't worry, the take variation with the name exchange variation is the easiest to play. In fact, everything from now on is easier. So let's talk about what happens when they take in this position instead of pushing. By the way, in some games you won't see this double pawn, instead they open with e4 and then play their knight. But that doesn't really matter because usually they take your pawn after this. And as long as they take, it's the exchange variation. We'll cover it with a very easy setup. Let's look at the double pawn version though. If they take, you take back. This time, there's no advanced pawn. Meaning it's a lot simpler to pressure the center. Not necessarily stronger, it's just simpler to play. Attack with the knight, get your other knight out to f6, there is no reason to go the long route in this game. Then get your bishop out to f5 or g4. Then push your pawn after getting the bishop out so it doesn't get stuck. Develop your other bishop, maybe like this. Later you can castle. Most of the time when they go for the exchange variation, you can literally just go for this setup, unless they attack with this pawn after exchanging. In that case you should develop this knight first instead of this knight. Everything else can stay the same. Don't take the pawn, they can take back and develop a bishop for free. Just defend it. But the setup is super simple, just learn the moves. We have one more variation to cover. So the first version was the advanced variation where they push the pawn, and we've covered the individual missions of your pieces earlier. If they take your pawn, you're in the exchange variation that we just covered. The last thing we need to take a look at right now is what to do if they don't take. If they don't take your pawn, they usually defend with the knight. You might see some other wild move every once in a while, but every other move besides this knight is not even worth studying because they're so rare. In this knight defense case you can take the pawn, they take back and you both lost a center pawn, which is completely fine. In the classical variation you attack the knight with your bishop. Often you'll see something like this, make sure to not get your bishop trapped. I have bad news and good news. The bad news is that this line has extremely complex theory. The good news is that 99% of your opponents don't know the theory, so you can just use your brain and play normal chess. Let's do something better because learning all the theory right now would be a waste of time. We'll take a look at a real game that shows you how to use the Caro-Kann to win. This game happened in 1700 elo and it shows how to dominate the center and how to use the dominance to win the game. White pushes the pawn, the advanced variation, and black attacks the center. White decides to defend the center with a pawn. Do you remember what black should do now? Correct, the knight basically always wants to apply pressure like this. They bring their knight out and the bishop pins it immediately. They unpin the knight and black frees the bishop and knight by pushing this pawn. White castles and black brings out the second knight. Now they attack the bishop, hoping to get rid of it. But black takes the knight and after trading pieces, black brings the second knight to f5. Now this pawn is attacked 3 times but only defended by 2 pieces. White doesn't want to take because it's a valuable center pawn and black could develop a bishop for free. So white tries to defend with the bishop. Black brings out the queen, adding more pressure to the center and attacking this pawn. White makes the decision to defend this pawn, but sacrifices the center by doing so. Black takes, white takes, black takes, white takes, black takes with the queen, basically forcing white to take back with the queen because the rook is under attack. White takes and black takes back with the knight. Black is now up a pawn and has the stronger center. But it's about to get worse. You should pay attention now because you'll see how black uses this dominant center to win the game like an unstoppable force. So black is up a pawn and controls the center. Now white brings out the knight and black attacks it by developing the bishop. White defends the knight with the rook and black moves the knight over here, attacking the second center pawn. The only way to defend it is to play this rook. And now black attacks the pawn again. Because white has a weak center, there is no way to defend the pawn now. The other center pawn that was defending this pawn is already gone. The dominance is compounding. Black takes the pawn and is 2 pawns up with an even more dominant position. Black then takes the bishop, which white has to take back with the pawn because the bishop pins this knight. After a little trading of pieces, black remains with a superior position, which allows black to conquer another pawn. Some pawn pushing later, black is absolutely dominating the board and is about to win. The good thing about dominant positions is that your opponent has 20 different options to lose the game. White chose to attack this pawn. Seems like a good move, but after black pushing this pawn, white makes the fatal mistake to take the pawn. The game was kind of over anyway, but after those moves, white can't stop the pawn from becoming a queen and resigns the game. If you forget some of the moves you can just rewatch this video anytime. The King's Indian setup can be played against e4, d4, knight f3, literally anything. Whenever you're black and your opponent plays any move, you can use it. That's why it's a great option for beginner to intermediate players, and these are the variations you'll have to learn. Except that we're going to learn a very easy setup and how to play the middle game after that. In 10 minutes from now, you will have an easy backup plan for every game as black. Here's how to play it. Basically you have 3 missions in the opening. Your first mission is very easy. See your king? It's not safe in the center. To avoid that, build a nice cozy castle like this and your king is in safety. Good job. Mission 1 is completed. There's just one thing. If they ever go e4, even if it's the first move, immediately play d6, the perk defense. If you play your normal moves instead, they will go here. This is very, very unpleasant. So instead, as soon as they push e4 at any point, you immediately go d6, some white move and now you can develop your knight safely. If they attack it now, you can snack the pawn and if they recapture, you can catapult your wife into the battlefield. It's just not good for white. So, most games you'll have to play d6 in the beginning and then you can go on about your castle. Let's move on to mission number 2. Once you've built the castle, you want to prepare an attack on the center. And this is where the opening becomes more complex than a PhD in quantum physics. I'm just going to show you the basic ideas. For your knight, you have 2 options. This and this. Generally speaking, this is the more aggressive option. We will look at that option later. But for now, let's go with the easier option. They can't attack your knight at all and you're supporting these 2 squares, preparing a future attack on the center. Look at this dude. Before clogging the position with your knight, try to get the bishop out first. This is the best square. In lower LO there's a 100% probability that you will see this move at some point. You just trade the bishop. Sometimes you will encounter a crazy person who plays h3 even before you can develop your bishop. In that case, please don't play bishop g4. Instead you can push this pawn and position your bishop here. Easy, right? Bishop go here or here. Knight go here or here. Now mission 3, the most important part. You are going to attack the center and the enemy king. Explaining this is kind of difficult. So let's just look at the most legendary example game played by Hikaru Nakamura. White opens with d4 and Hikaru plays knight f6, c4, pawn push, and knight c3. Hikaru positions the bishop and after e4 he immediately goes d6 as we talked about earlier. Knight f3 and castle. Just like that, mission 1 is completed. Good job Hikaru. Now some other white move and normally you work on mission 2, preparing the attack. But Hikaru attacks the center right away. Now pay attention because this is a very common scenario that will really elevate your skill level. I intentionally split the opening into missions. Mission 1, building the castle, is non-negotiable. You always want to finish this. Mission 2 however, which is to prepare the attack, can be skipped if you don't need it. So Hikaru goes straight into the attack. Before doing this, think about what's going to happen if your opponent takes. Let's say hypothetically his opponent captured the pawn. Hikaru can take back. To make it easier they exchange queens and his opponent eats the pawn with his knight. Hikaru is down a pawn. Or is he? You can actually take the pawn like this and if white captures, Hikaru can take the knight with the bishop. This is a very common tactic in the opening, that's why I walked you through it. In this game white castled instead. And here's another very important move. Hikaru moves this knight. I told you earlier that this is the more aggressive and slightly more difficult choice, because the knight can easily be attacked. And that's exactly what happened in this game, but it's not much of a problem. Hikaru swings the knight over to e7, let me explain why this is a great move. A major part of your strategy will be your attack on the enemy king side. This pawn will attack like this. And your knight on e7 perfectly supports both your pawn push and your whole king side attack. White moves a knight, making room for the pawn. And Hikaru also moves his knight out of the way, which is another very common move in the King's Indian. White pushes the pawn and finally, Hikaru executes his attack. You are about to see the most straightforward attack on the king since 1793. White develops the bishop and Hikaru pushes the pawn again. The bishop retreats and here comes another pawn. Hikaru is about to run over his opponent. You definitely want to see that so you can do it the same way. You might be wondering though, what if there's no king on the king side? What if they castled queen side instead? Well, buckle up because different side castling is extremely dangerous for both players. Pretty much the only advice that I can give you is to generally keep your king side locked. No pawn storm this time. The rest is just a hardcore tactical thinking contest. Good luck. But most people castle king side, so let's go back to the relevant lesson. Hikaru's king side attack. White puts the knight here, to prepare a pawn push. White's defense is about to collapse and the game will end in a fatal checkmate. Hikaru brings the knight over to g6 to support the king side attack. White attacks queen side, but Hikaru moves his knight, building up the king side attack. Now this. You'll understand the point of this move in a few seconds. Rook f7, again you will understand this in a few seconds. King h1. The idea is to create an escape square for the bishop because white sees a big attack coming. And Hikaru uses every free move to push pawns. And white captures on the queen side. Hikaru takes back and now you can see the idea behind these rooks. The knight goes here, threatening to advance very deeply into the enemy's defense. But Hikaru predicted this attack. The rook and the queen prevent it. He pushes a6 and the knight has to retreat. Attack blocked successfully. But there's one more thing. The knight can go here, potentially going here. So Hikaru does something called neutralizing. You identify a possible move and neutralize it. So he identifies the threat and prevents the move by pushing this pawn. That's what you want to do on the queen side. Now rook c6, white is eager to attack the queen side. But g4, Hikaru keeps attacking the king side. Queen c2, supporting the queen side attack. Queen f8, both players have made a clear decision which side to attack. Later you will actually see that this was one of the most important moves in the game. Rook c1, now the bishop is triple attacked. Bishop d7 and the rook has to go here. Bishop h6, a hidden attack on the rook. The bishop retreats, obviously because this is becoming kind of a problem. Nakamura pushes this pawn, 3 dudes chilling right in front of the king. This isn't real life, you can't just ignore all your problems, you have to actually face them, so white attacks. And you're about to see the most epic King's Indian attack of all time. Hikaru pushes the pawn. Take a moment and look at this. The bishop now attacks the rook, both these pawns are hanging. And here's something that I'll call a hidden checkmate, we'll get to that in a second. White takes the pawn. And as you might anticipate, of course Hikaru is going to sacrifice his knight. Except it's not actually sacrificed because if white takes, it's check, takes checkmate. Except it's not actually checkmate because instead, white could go here. Except that it actually is checkmate because after bishop goes here and bishop takes, he can sacrifice the pawn, king captures and check, and after blocking the check, this is checkmate. Basically, if white takes the knight, it's bye-bye. So instead, white saves the rook from the bishop attack. And now, behold, a rook sacrifice. If white was to take the rook, then black could recapture with the queen, giving check. Now the best engine moves are to block the check with the queen, then black takes this pawn with the bishop. White pushes a pawn, and now black can take the queen, giving check again. White has to take with the king, and as you can see, the rook is gone and black is in a way better position. So of course his grandmaster opponent did not do that. Instead of taking the rook, he takes the bishop on the queen side. The current engine score is -22. The whole king side is ripped apart, the king is in massive danger. Hikaru goes rook f1, you already know that taking the rook results in immediate checkmate. So instead, white goes king g2, but now bishop e3, threatening to put the rook here, which would be checkmate in 2. White moves the bishop away so that this rook is protecting the g1 square. That was cool, white avoided checkmate. Force checkmate in 13 moves. We'll look at this epic checkmate and then we'll summarize how you should play the King's Indian because you probably won't spot a 13-move checkmate. In this position, Hikaru takes the bishop, leaving his rook unprotected. White of course captures the rook and Hikaru attacks with the knight. Check. This would be checkmate in 1, so white goes king h3. Hikaru puts the queen here, a potential discovered attack on the king. The white king can't move at all, so white pushes the pawn, opening this escape square for the king. Knight captures the pawn with check. King g4, knight f3. Now this would be checkmate. To stop it, white moves the knight here, covering the h3 square. Now the queen goes here, still a dangerous move. And king f5, the king has arrived on the other half of the board. Rook f8, another check. The king has to go even further. Rook f6, this is the second rook sacrifice. The king captures. And here's something. A discovered check and actually double check. Now king g6. After leading the king all the way to the other side of the board, finally, Hikaru plays queen h5, checkmate. Okay, that was Hikaru. But how should you play the King's Indian defense? You have two options. Number 1, the superior way. Build the fancy castle and then do the math. Can you attack the center right now? If you can, do it right away. Then of course, attack your enemy's fancy castle. The more you play this and the more you watch high elo games, the more you will recognize typical moves like bringing out the bishop, sliding this knight to make room for the pawn push, positioning the rook and queen here, sliding this knight to the king side and pushing pawns like a maniac. The bad news is, if you think you can study all variations, you've pranked yourself. It might be the most complex opening of all, but it's also the easiest opening if you play the simple setup. Just build your fancy castle. Bishop, knight, and the middle game strategy is the same. Instead of studying a bunch of dumb stuff, play the simple version and get practice for the middle game. You need nothing more than practice. For bad players who are confused about the middle game like you, the London system might be the perfect opening. You can literally play the exact same moves against anything and always end up in a solid position.
But chess page 1, beginners should deeply study the opening, rather than learning this setup.
That's what you might think. Turns out, you're wrong. Usually, beginners are surprisingly decent in the opening, but don't know what to do in the middle game. So, if you can force your brain to pay attention for 10 minutes now, you'll learn an opening system that you can play against anything. That way you'll have time to finally learn the middle game. Usually I explain openings and missions, but this time it makes much more sense to learn the ideal setup, then the exceptions of that setup, and then we'll look at 2 example games that'll show you the main attacking ideas. And my next video will be fully dedicated to the middle game. But now let us learn the London system so you can stop worrying about the opening. Pay attention because in 10 minutes you will basically be Magnus Carlsen. First of all, let's talk about the setup. Just follow these steps. d4. Then get the bishop out and push your pawn. But make sure the bishop is already out. Now develop your knight to f3 and your other knight to d2. Complete the pawn pyramid and put your bishop on d3. This is your ideal setup. But there are some things that you have to know. Let's say the game went like this. You still have the same setup. And black pushes c4, attacking your bishop. Your d3 bishop is supposed to attack the kingside castle. So it wants to stay in this diagonal. Just drop it back one square, it's still pointing towards the king side. Let's talk about your knight. I'll take these moves back real quick. Black does some normal development move. These two squares are incredibly important. That's why your pawns, bishops and knights' mission is to attack on e5. Now your horse can jump there, well protected, nice. This is your main attacking idea. Most people capture right away. And you recapture with the pawn. Obviously the knight is under attack and has to retreat, and you play queen h5. Absolutely dominating the king side. I'll show you how to secure the win on the king side with an example game later. This is your ideal attack. It's very common but sometimes things don't go as planned. For example, in this position, when you're trying to build your ideal setup, some people go bishop d6, attacking your bishop. Do not trade, they will recapture and you lose all control over e5. Instead, as soon as they offer this trade, just slide your bishop back. And if they take, you recapture, opening the file for your rook. Now you will have even more control over the king side. And the last thing before we will look at an example game, if they ever play bishop f5, taking control over this diagonal, don't let your bishop sit and wait. Immediately challenge the control. But don't initiate the trade. Let them take first and recapture with the queen. Threat neutralized. And now let's take a look at an example game. d4 d5. Bishop out. Some black move in d3. The first half of the pawn pyramid. Black develops a knight and white does the same. Now white's next move is to develop the second knight, and believe it or not, a common move that you will see every once in a while is bishop before pinning your knight. Obviously you continue your normal plan, just push c3. The bishop has to retreat. And finally, bishop d3. Your ideal setup is complete. Black castles. White has full control over e5 and perfectly executes the knight attack. Of course black immediately takes. White recaptures, attacking the knight. The horse jumps off. Everything is going as planned. And here comes queen h5. The perfect attack. This would be checkmate. And the most common way to defend it is to push g6. But now you can place your queen very comfortably. The king is silently crying right now. But there's not much to do. So black pushes c5, hoping to gain an advantage on the queen side. But white plays h4. The attack is rolling. There's no turning back. c4. Drop your bishop back. And knight c5. Oh no, has black discovered a weakness? This weak square is double attacked. Black can position a knight behind our pawn structure. Oh no, anyway. Push the pawn, you have a superior attack. Black positions the knight. Which is kind of annoying because it's blocking your bishop, that way reducing your dominance on the king side. But white takes the L and captures the knight. It's not too bad. Now it's attacking time. White captures. And oh, what is this? Checkmate in one? The best move is literally to throw the queen in the way. The rook takes it. Now moving the rook like this stops mate in one because after the queen captures, the king can go here. Just to be mated anyway. But before you go off and try to play this, obviously your game will not always go as planned. So let's take a look at another example game that shows the most common alternatives. It starts with d4 and now e6. Oh no, a completely different starting move. Well, the good news is, you can play the London anyway. So get your bishop out. And off by now. By the way, if black puts the queen here, please don't blunder your pawn. Use your wife as a human shield to protect the peasants. And if they capture, he was known for his ridiculous positional understanding. Few people on earth have ever achieved his level of superior strategic dominance. And this is what he said about the middle game.
You're pranking yourself and you will never understand positional strategy. Delete your chess account, noob. There is no hope for you. Unless.
His actual advice is this. In order to improve your middle game, you need to study the endgame. Because the goal of the middle game is to achieve a good position for the endgame. And if you don't know what endgame position is winning, how are you supposed to know what position you're trying to achieve during the middle game? It's like driving a car without knowing your destination. That leaves us with one problem. There are 423 trillion endgames. But of course I prepared a well-packaged guide that will elevate you beyond all the noobs who don't study positional strategy at all. But first let's talk about a meta problem. Strategy versus tactics. Strategy is your long-term plan for the game. Tactics are the specific moves, like finding a fork to win a piece. Chances are, the most important thing for your improvement are tactics. Strategy matters when you can play through an entire game without blundering and without missing simple tactics. Your strategy really doesn't matter at all when you blunder a rook. And chances are, 9 out of your last 10 losses, you didn't lose due to strategy, but due to tactics. I guarantee you, anyone under 2000 rating should put their main focus on improving the tactics. If you feel lost after the opening, that's completely normal. There are billions of options and understanding positional strategy is very, very difficult. And even more importantly, the basic foundation of everything are tactics. If you can't play 10 games in a row without blundering even once, then trying to learn strategy would be like trying to get a PhD in mathematics when you can't even solve 1 + 1. So what we're going to do is this. You don't study the endgame. I'll summarize the basic middle game principles that you would learn if you studied endgames. It's not going to fix your middle game confusion entirely, but it will give you basic ideas. Then you go on and improve your tactics. And only when you hit maybe 17, 18 or even 1900 rating, that is when you start to worry about strategy. Until then, you just play by the basic rules I give you, and if you don't know what move to play, literally your only objective is to not blunder. Don't waste time thinking about the ideal move. Make any move that's not a blunder and put the pressure of making a move back on your opponent. I looked up some statistics and they are very. Your opponent doesn't have a game plan, everybody is confused. But confusion means high probability of blunders, and if you don't blunder, you will crush 99% of your opponents. Congratulations, you are now enlightened and smart. So here are the basic middle game principles that actually matter. You can use these, but remember, whenever you feel like you need a complex strategy, just don't blunder. Endgames are usually extremely powerful in the endgame. Look at this. This is called an open file because there are no pieces in the way. The rook can dominate it entirely. The rook is cutting off the enemy king. Now your king can easily capture the pawns. And the enemy rook is completely useless. Let's look at a middle game position. What we see is a rook occupying an open file. And since white occupied it first, the black rook can't move here anymore. White can even go here, attacking a weak pawn. It's not immediately game over, but definitely a big disadvantage for black. So it's important to occupy the open file early in the middle game before your opponent does. But even more importantly, they play a major role in supporting advancing pawns. Promoting a pawn is probably about the single most powerful tactic in endgames at all. Which brings us to our next principle. If your opponent has an advanced pawn, blockade it with the knight. You can use any other piece, but the best one for this purpose is the knight. Trust me, there are many endgame. Use your brain on this one. If you let your opponent push this pawn, for example, it will create a weak square. So just stop him. Easy. Another principle for your pawn structure. You should try to avoid isolated pawns. It's a pawn with no neighbor pawns who could protect him. This dude is very easy to defend, but this one is very difficult to defend in the endgame. Let's say you have a pawn structure like this at some point. If you take the pawn, you create an isolated pawn on your side. So maybe don't. The same goes for double pawns. They're always difficult to defend later. There are two more general rules of thumb. Number 1, pieces in the center occupy more space, which means higher chances of available tactics. There might be a cool tactic here, but probably not if the knight was over here. Number 2, and with this one, please don't get ahead of yourself. You want to push your pieces, especially your pawns, to occupy more space and obtain better positions for your pieces. But always make sure to stay safe and protect your advanced pieces. Remember the most important rule: do not blunder. Let me reassure you that you will experience confusion and sometimes you will not have a specific plan. That is completely normal. Embrace the confusion by simply making any move that's not a blunder, then wait for your opponent to blunder and collect the piece. Last week in Chess Page University, a guy sent me a screenshot of his match history. Win, 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 8 times in a row. Before this he was just like you, stuck. But he suddenly improved overnight. So I asked him what he did differently, and I share the advice with more people. And they also instantly went on winning streaks. I'm not going to pretend that this was due to our pattern recognition training. The advice is very simple. The truth is that you already are quite decent at chess. You're just not playing to your full potential. Do you think these people magically improved by 100 elo in one day? No, they already were that good, allowing you to win a lot of games. Now, what actually made the difference here? It was focus. So just focus better? It doesn't work that way. You can't just focus better. First of all, you probably know that if you're focused, you play easily 200 elo above your level. You blunder less, which leads to more wins. We all agree that you don't lack intelligence to see why this move is bad. As long as your IQ is above 50, this mistake mainly comes from a lack of focus. When it comes to unlocking superior focus, there are bad news and there are good news. The bad news first. Truly improving your focus is a matter of changing your whole life. You need to improve your sleep, your physical fitness and health, your stress management, your relationships, diet, everything about your life. But the good news is, focusing is hard. Are you stupid? Chess page where your focus, you won't be 5 seconds distraction disrupts your focus flow. But when I say focus, I mean focus. I'm talking monk mode level focus. I'm talking turn your phone's notifications off. Don't check your social medias. Don't watch a series or a YouTube video. This is some ninja meditation type of focus that I want you to apply. And you'll see if you play chess like that, not only will you be better, you will also enjoy it more. It's like relaxing meditation. The world shuts off for half an hour and your mind applies singular focus to one thing. That's what you were made for, that's your primal flow state instinct. Number 3. Music. Pretty much every single study ever shows that music without lyrics, especially classical music, has a positive impact on cognitive function. So make sure to pick music with no lyrics, ideally classical music. If you prefer silence, by all means play silently. Weirdo. Number 4. You're a Roman emperor. What? You heard what I said. Embrace your divine emperor soul. You're the genius strategist behind an army. Visualize your victory. Use your highly interconnected prefrontal cortex to execute higher order decision making like a true emperor. Number 5. Splash water in your face. What? Splash water in your face, wake up the emperor. Literally find a sink, splash water in your face, ignore bystanders, don't answer questions about why you are doing this or who you are or what you are doing in their house, sit at your desk and play chess. Number 6. Especially pay attention to one-move blunders. If you could prevent all one-move blunders, you're a whole lot better at chess. Use your newly obtained superior focus to carefully pay attention to what exactly changes on the chessboard when you make a move. Can my piece be attacked on the new square? Did I open an attack line for a rook or bishop? Is there a dangerous check? No? Okay. Your main concern is to prevent mistakes, so here's a list of each micro-step. If each step can help you play 10 to 20 elo better, you'll play around 100 elo better instantly. How is it that some people play lots of chess and barely improve, but others rarely play at all and go absolute bonkers? Some people improve the wrong way and it takes them years. Meanwhile others casually hit a top 5% rating like it's nothing. Wouldn't it be nice to get good at chess without dedicating your life? I will teach you how to win at chess, the correct way. How do I know the way? Last week I launched Chess Page University. Inside I'm working with people of all ranges. I listen to their problems and help solve them. I get feedback from hundreds of players telling me what advice helped. Then I can make YouTube videos, giving you real-world advice to improve at chess, and the goal is optimal improvement per time spent practicing. I want to show you what actually makes the difference in elos, so I forced two players of massively different elo to play against pawns with e5. Knight f3, knight c6. The most common moves. And knight c3, knight f6, the four knights game. But now white plays a rather unconventional move, g3. And the low elo player spots an opportunity to attack on d5, backed by the knight and the queen. White decides to take the pawn, black takes back to the queen. I asked the player of black after the game, he had no idea what he was doing in the opening. And you could actually argue that his position is better than the high-rated player's position. Now white wants to push the bishop back, the bishop retreats and look at this. White pushes again. The bishop has to retreat again, but this is just not optimal. Both sides are kind of bad for the white king. White castles king side, but this is not perfect at all. If I was this king I would fire my defense. The low-rated player actually kind of won the opening. But does it even matter at all? We'll see. Black develops the bishop. And here white decides to offer a trade by playing d4. If black takes, white can recapture and then double pawn is gone. Black doesn't take, but castles instead. Ouch. This allows d5, attacking the knight. It's not game over but a little annoying. The horse has to jump back home. At least it's also an attack on the pawn, so white has to defend it now. The position is overall very equal. c6, challenging the center pawn. White develops a bishop. And c5. Now d4 might become a weak square. Knight h4, threatening to take the bishop. b6, solidifying the pawn structure. White plays rook e1, a normal development move. And now look at this. The game has been equal so far. No player was massively dominant, nobody absolutely crushed the opening, nobody has a Black captures a pawn, coming dangerously close to the king. White moves the queen. And black takes another pawn, also giving check. This is ridiculous. Now white blocks with the queen and black can trade queens. And after the trade, black takes another pawn. This was 3 free pawns, the material difference is only 1 point and the game is almost equal again. Wow, so high-rated players aren't perfect, you can actually come back against them. Except that this didn't really happen. In this position with the queen standoff, black didn't trade queens. All the low-rated player could see was ooga booga, I can capture a pawn, so I must capture a pawn. So he ooga booga takes the pawn and instantly loses to checkmate in 1. In the second game, something absolutely shocking happened. e4 e5 and knight f3, this time the low-rated player is on the white side. The player of the black pieces develops his queen on move 2, not a good move. The high-rated player is in silly mode. Knight c3, book move, nice. Knight c6 and now the bishop gets out. And to get rid of it, the high-rated player pushes a6. What would you do? White captures the knight. Arguably an inaccuracy, you don't really want to trade bishops for knights unless it's very beneficial. Black takes back. This is one of the slight inaccuracies by the low-rated player. A few moves later, he gets into a trade creating a double pawn, another non-ideal situation. But does it really matter so much? And here the low elo player puts the king on c2. What a tragedy, because the knight goes to e1, completely unnecessary. And the pawn is gone for nothing. Knight d3, this is a real game. This actually happened. Black can capture another pawn, forking the king at a pawn. King e3 and the third pawn is gone. There was no advanced strategy or complex attack by the high-rated player. All he did was not blundering. Fast forward, white loses one more random pawn for nothing and then loses tragically due to unnecessary mistakes. What a shocking turn of events. So, what was the main difference here? The high-rated player didn't pull out some Magnus Carlsen type of Giga tactic. He also didn't pull out some genius strategy or 10 difference take. This is a battle between a chess master genius and a beginner-level player, and while you watch them, he explains exactly why he makes each move. He will play against 3 players, while giving you detailed instructions on how to beat each player, the first one being 700 elo. Alright, let's open the first game with e4 and see what black does. c6, nice. The Caro-Kann defense. You've probably heard before that you want to conquer the center in the opening, but what if I told you that's not entirely true? In some openings, like the Caro-Kann defense, you deliberately give up the center and allow me to play d4. Now I have the whole center. Black's goal is to conquer the center in the middle game after giving it to me in the opening. Let's see how he does that. d5, nice. The idea is to break my center. I'm going to push e5, expanding my space. If you have more space, it will be easier to put your pieces in a good position. Hopefully chess page 1 shows you a good and realistic example right now that could totally happen in a real game. More space means more room for your pieces. In this position black wants to push the e-pawn, but that would blockade the bishop. So he should develop the bishop first. Nice. He actually knows how to play the Caro-Kann, which is surprising because he is very bad at chess. Anyway, I'm going to develop my knight. e6, okay, normal move. Now I'm going to develop my bishop. Why the bishop? Because now you can already treat your queen. So instead, I will take with the knight, at the same time attacking the bishop. He drops the bishop back because he doesn't want to trade, fair enough. I'll just castle. Look at this. My king is safe, his king is still in the middle and nowhere near to castling. Black develops a knight, not a bad move. I think I'll add more pressure to the queen side now. Let me go c4. You don't have to make this specific move, but I feel like it will help me accelerate his queenside collapse. Let's see what he does. He should try to castle his king or at least bring more stability to his queen c. Never mind, he wants to lose. So, he took my knight. That's not losing material, but now this diagonal with a direct attacking opportunity to the king is open again. I'll recapture the knight with my queen. I only use my queen because I know that he can't attack it afterwards. At this point I have a very clear plan. My king is safe. His king is not safe at all. The queen side is ripped apart and this open diagonal will very likely become his critical weakness. Now he captures my pawn. I'll recapture with the queen. Look, his king won't be safe for the next 5 moves or something. Rook c8. So the idea here is that he wants to develop his rook to a good square while attacking my queen at the same time. Then I'll have to move my queen again, wasting a move. Cool idea, but it's a mistake. I give check. That's just not good for him. Queen d7 to block the check. I could take his queen and he has to move his king, meaning he can't castle anymore. That would be a good move, but you should always look for an even better move. I'll go rook d1. Now I'm attacking the queen. But the queen can't move to the side. It's pinned by my queen. His only reasonable option is to capture my queen. And that's what he does. Now this move is an easy decision, take the freaking queen. Check. Now his only 2 options are to either move the king and blockade the whole king side, or instead he could block the check with his rook. But rooks are more valuable than bishops, right? He decides to not block with the rook, but move his king. Now I can go here. My rook is defended by the bishop and I'm attacking his king and pawn at the same time. He moves his king away. I take the pawn and it's check again. He moves his king. I give check again. He moves his king and I take another pawn. And it's also check again. He moves his king. And now, because I'm smart, I see a forced checkmate. I gotta say, there was no big blunder in this game. He is only 700, but that was surprisingly clean. Boom, boom, bam, bam, pa-da-pow checkmate. Let's play game 2, e4 and d5, nice. This is the most common opening, let me show you how to destroy it. For the next game I'll make sure I play black so you also see how to play as black. But now let's focus on this game. I'll go knight f3, a normal development move, putting pressure on the center pawn. Knight c6, alright, I'll go bishop b5, immediately attacking the knight. Why do I do that? First of all, I'm ready to castle again. Lightning speed. Second of all, the c6 knight is defending the pawn. So by applying pressure to the knight, I actually weaken the center pawn. And he pushes a pawn, fair enough, I would do the same. Now in this case you don't want to take the knight. You might think that you can trade pieces here and now the pawn is undefended, so you can take it with your knight. But now you have 2 undefended pieces. Very dangerous. You have to be suspicious about these situations. In this case, black can move the queen to d4, attacking both of your pieces. There's no way to defend both. So what's the lesson here? Be extra careful when you're moving a piece to an undefended square. And be super extra careful when you have 2 undefended pieces at the same piece. But he plays bishop c5. That's just an outright mistake. Why? My plan is to push c3 and then d4. I would do this anyway. But now there's also a bishop and he will have to retreat it. That's not a game-losing blunder, but it's a dumb move regardless. This might be one of the few cases where it's fair to say, I just have the opening knowledge and he doesn't. I don't think you can possibly calculate that. That's why you should pick one opening and actually learn it. First of all, let me castle my king to safety so I don't end up like the last guy. d6. Okay. Now I'll play c3. I do this to create a free square for my bishop. In case he plays knight a5, I want to be able to drop my bishop back to safety again. Knight f6. What does this move do? Is he attacking something? Yes, my pawn. But let me introduce danger levels. Instead of defending my pawn, I will attack his bishop. That way I can complete my attack that I planned. And he can't take my pawn because his bishop is under attack. This attack may look messy, but really all you have to do is count. How many pieces are attacking my pawn? 1, 2, 3. How many pieces are defending my pawn? 1, 2, 3. So I'm good. Okay, he takes my pawn. I'll recapture obviously, I don't think I need to explain this. Now he has to move his bishop away. There we go. Look at that massive center. That's the magic that happens when you learn one opening and play it well. Okay, now I have plenty of options. To decide which move I'm going to make, let's first look at my opponent's options. First thing that comes to my mind is this. He can capture the pawn. The pawn isn't defended. But if he does capture it, I can move my rook to e1, pinning the knight to the king. And trust me, I'll find a way to capture that knight. So that's not a problem. What else could he do? If he moved the bishop here, my knight would be pinned to the queen. I don't want that. So I'll play h3 to prevent that move. He castles. Now the king is not in the middle anymore. This pawn was defended because of the potential pin. Now there's no king behind the knight, so I'll have to defend my pawn. I'll do that with knight f3, a normal development move. Rook e8. Double attacking my pawn. I get the idea. You put a rook on a good square and attack my pawn at the same time. I could put the rook on e1 to defend the pawn. But keep in mind to always look for a better move. I can pin his knight. First of all, if he takes my pawn, I take his queen. If he takes with the rook, I take his rook. So he can't capture my pawn anymore. h6, little bit late but okay. I drop my bishop back. And he pushes another pawn. Now in this situation I'm going to do something cool. I'll sacrifice my knight. Now he takes back and I take back. Look at this. The king side is open and there's a lot of pressure going on. This knight can't move at all. And the queen also can't move, because then I can take the knight. There's really no good way to defend this knight at all. It's just a very bad position for black. If you play more and more chess you will develop pattern recognition that allows you to see these type of typically dangerous situations. King g7, defending the knight. Well. But the knight still can't move right now because it's pinned at the moment. So let me think about how we can apply more pressure to the situation. Knight d5. Attacking the knight one more time. If I'm capturing with my bishop now, it will attack the king and the queen at the same time. Big win. So he better find a way to defend this. And surprisingly, he does find an interesting way to defend it. Bishop takes d4. Now the knight is defended by the bishop and the bishop is defended by the knight. Man, these 1200 rated players today are crazy. Crazy bad because I'm about to ruin your day. Rook c3, attacking the knight that is defending the bishop that is defending the knight. What can you learn here? I'm attacking the defender of a piece. I want to get rid of this bishop, so I attack the defender of that bishop. And he defends with the bishop. The knight is defended by the bishop, which is defended by the knight, which is defended by the bishop. Great. Let's ruin his day. I'll take care with the rook. Now he takes back. And I can take the bishop with my queen. Not only is this winning material points for me, I'm also triple attacking this poor horse now. I hope this tactic was understandable. From here on the game should be super easy. He should do something about the knight situation. Rook e6. I don't know, man, but okay. He should have taken my knight. Now I have another tactic. I'll take his knight. He recaptures with the rook. Awful for him. My bishop is looking at the rook and the queen. The rook is pinned by my queen. The rook is having his worst day. This rook is pinned so monumentally that I don't have to take it right now. I can wait and see if there's a better tactic in the future. Let's just push a pawn and see what happens. If I was him, I would be highly concerned with this. He should probably never mind he pushes queen side. Okay. Let's investigate. I could move my rook here and here. Applying even more pressure. That takes 2 moves, but what is he gonna do about it? There's really nothing he can do to stop me. So let's do it. Okay, another queenside push. And here I spot a tactic that is probably going to win me as queen. You probably don't see the tactic right now, I'll show it to you. But keep in mind that you don't have to spot all these tactics. Your lesson here are, first of all, make sure your king is safe. My opponent can't win my queen with a kingside attack because my king is safe. This king is not safe. Secondly, improve your tactics. Chess is 99% tactics. I take the rook. Check. He probably takes back with the queen. Exactly. Probably thinking I will now recapture with my queen. But no. Rook g3. Check. And the king cannot move to any square that is defending the queen. Now he has to move his king and the queen is all alone. Let me get that real quick. Oh no, my bishop. How can I possibly win the game now? I'm only 7 points up in material. Let's move on to the third game. I'll show you how to win as black. e4, nice, the most common move. I'll play the Caro-Kann, you'll see why. d4 nice, d5. I'm trying to break the center. e5, good. I develop my bishop, remember you want to develop it before pushing the pawn. He develops the knight, I push my pawn. And the bishop. So this guy is playing really well so far. He can castle anytime and I'm not even close. How the turns have tabled. But I will show you how to keep your king safe. This is not just about the Caro-Kann. This game will be a good lesson in king safety and hopefully a lesson in how to win the middle game and turn it into a winning endgame, because this player might be good enough to make it to the endgame. The last two guys got checkmated in the middle game. So, I will attack the center now. If he takes it, I can take back with the bishop. He castles, good choice. I'm going to develop my knight to close this diagonal. The guy in the first game captured the center pawn in this position. I'll wait for now. My biggest concern is to keep this diagonal closed until my king is safe. c3, very common move, no problem. I'll take now. He takes back. And my queen's side is still closed. Now I'll try to castle my king. First I have to get the knight out, it can't go here, so I have to develop it to e7. Don't worry about the bishop, we'll get him out too. Knight c3. Okay. My turn. There's not really anything very dangerous going on right now. I'll go bishop g4. If I can remove this knight, I'm removing a defender of this pawn. And in the Caro-Kann, especially in lower elo, you can apply massive pressure to the pawn and very often win it. I'm pretty sure this dude will lose the e-pawn to my pressure. Attacks my bishop, okay, I'll trade pieces, he takes back, beautiful. So now his center pawn is only defended one time. I'll move my knight here and double attack it. Notice how I told you that I want to castle fast but I didn't? Sometimes you have to change plans when there's an opportunity. In this case I'm pretty sure I will win a pawn. He defends it with his bishop. But now I'll just add more pressure with my queen, attacking the center pawn and the b-pawn at the same time. If I was playing against a grandmaster he would probably find a way to defend this, but my guess is that he will lose a pawn now. Yep, he pushes this pawn. Chess is all about counting. Can you count? 1, 2, 3 pieces are attacking. 1, 2 pieces are defending. So I consume the pawn. He takes with the bishop and I take with the queen. Why the queen? Well, I want him to trade queens with me so we get closer to the endgame. With this pawn structure I'm pretty sure I can show you how to force a win in the endgame. He takes my queen and I take back. Perfect. Now he decides to put his rook on d1. Okay, the rook is in a better position than before and I have to move my knight. So where should I move it? Look at this. If I take the bishop, it's check and he will take back with the pawn, creating a double pawn. That's not good for him. So let's do that. Okay, perfect. Let me show you how to win the endgame here. I move my rook to c8, occupying the c file and attacking the knight. So let's see where he moves the knight. b5. Okay, so this is not a game-losing mistake but kind of a short-sighted move. I just push my pawn and he has to retreat. That was not good for anything. I can't believe I'm doing this so late, but it's finally time to develop the bishop. By the way, I just want to say, in my brain the first thing I look for are potential threats. But since there is no dangerous move for my opponent, I can safely develop my bishop. I'll just move it here. It's an active square, good enough for my bishop. My dear opponent decides to offer me a rook trade. I'm fine with that since I will win the endgame. But if I initiate the trade by capturing, he will recapture and then he owns this whole file. So instead I'll take care of my king first. Should I castle? Nope. Your king wants to be in a safe corner during the middle game. But when there are few pieces on the board, you can safely move your king to the center. The king is a strong piece after all. He can only move one square at a time, but he can move in every direction. Look at this walking tank. You'll see, especially after we trade our rooks, the kings will play a major role. And my opponent moves his king too. Let me trade rooks. What now? I kind of want to move my bishop over here, and next move I will put it here. Obviously he has to save his rook and he moves it here. So now I go here, very nice. I'm attacking the pawn and cutting the king off. The game isn't over, but it's a good position for my bishop. Also, he now moves the rook to defend the pawn. His rook is now stationary in a defensive position and I can move my rook to occupy this file. Let's win this endgame. He moves his pawn, okay. My rook is in a better position than his, but let me still do this. I can trade pieces down because I'm definitely going to win the pawn endgame. He takes, I take back. And he follows with a minor mistake, moving the king. I'll put my bishop here, attacking the knight and pawn. He moves his knight and I win the pawn, thank you. In this position he pushes a pawn and I retreat my bishop, no rocket science. So let's take a look at the whole thing. The question is who can promote a pawn first. His king is on this side. And this side is completely blocked by my pawns. My king is on this side with easy access to his pawns. He pushes the king, but I don't care. I walk my way to his pawns. What is he gonna do? Attack my pawns? He can't do anything. He pushes, I take, He takes. Okay. I go one more step towards his pawns. His king can't get to my pawns, every single square is occupied. He goes back. I'll take this chance to move my bishop out of the way while attacking his pawn. He uses a move to dodge my attack. And I go one more step towards his pawns. King f5, whatever the point of that move was. See, I'm making sure he can't get to me. Meanwhile, I am about to capture his pawns. He starts an unsuccessful attempt to save his pawn. I'll just fork his knight and pawn. Yes, kings can fork pieces. He has to retreat his knight and I take the pawn. See how powerful kings are in endgames? The most important thing is to cut off the enemy king and utilize your own king. His pawn runs away as if there was any hope to escape. I'm coming for you, peasant. Knight e5. This is probably supposed to be a super short-sighted attempt to attack this pawn. I just trade my pieces. And here I wanted to protect this pawn, so let me go here. He advances a pawn, I quickly take it. He pushes another pawn, and now the inevitable victory is close. I could promote these pawns, but obviously I can also promote this one. So I push my pawn. He follows. I escort my pawn. He can't go here, so he goes to the next best square, here. And boom. This is called the red carpet. My king is covering every square and the pawn can safely walk his way to promotion. Nobody can stop him. White resigns. Good game, bro. If you want to win more games like this, or this, or this, there's one problem. Most people are training inefficiently, and they never get to their dream rating. That is why I'm testing training methods inside ChessPage University. And so far the average ELO gain over 2 weeks of training was 152 rating points. If you're interested in a training method that has been shown to work well, I linked